So today we have a panel discussion, and the panel is, I'm going to be calling up the ladies in just a few moments. So just finish eating on your plate. Sandra Cantrell is actually going to be facilitating that panel. Sandra is actually a counselor with Bethany Christian Services, and she helps them with the adoption process. I've known her for a couple years now, and an incredibly godly woman, someone that you want to take to coffee, right there. And so in a moment I'm going to be having the panel come up and to be able to discuss the art of balance, women supporting women. And so without further ado, can I have the panel come on up?
Indeed, this is a pleasure for me. I am so happy to get to know these ladies better, and I encourage you to do the same. But the way that this topic came about is, we have a brain trust, Sandy and several others that get together and we talk about what topics might be good, and that's why we need your feedback. But when we talked about topics, we kind of all agreed that we would really like to consider, put time aside, focus on how do you balance your work and your home and your family and your fun and your spiritual life and your emotional life. So we don't know how that's done. None of us are experts, none of us, but we're all works in progress, and these 5 ladies agreed to be available. I was just thinking about, balance. Why do we choose that topic? What is the importance of it? And the verses in Ecclesiastes came to mind. There's a time for everything. There's a time for every season. And so we're going to cover that. We're going to cover what seasons these ladies are in and how. So to me, the verse in Ecclesiastes tells us that God cares about balance in our lives, and that they are going to be able to impart what they've learned at the stages and places they are in life. So without further ado, other than saying they're fantastic ladies, you do need to take each of them to lunch or to coffee. I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and to do that, I've asked them to sort of share about themselves very quickly, ladies. What are the domains of their lives that they're balancing? Okay, that helps, right? So we're going to identify with some, and some are going to be different. We're going to learn. So, Lynette, wow. Better hold the mic really close.
Do we really need a mic? We need a mic. Okay, we need a mic.
First question.
Okay, domains. I just want to agree with Sandra that none of us have it all together, and we're all works in progress, and we are really just getting better or worse at being able to manage balance, right? It's not a problem that we can solve. It's a day-to-day decision as to what we need to do now. And I thought about the domains, and, did I say my name? My name is Lynette Stein, and I'm in a new role. For 30 years or more, I was working with the folks at Bethany Christian Services, and I'm just now in a new work called Cambridge Academy's Enterprise Restart Centers. And so in some ways, it's a shifting of my life into a new startup, so to speak, where our organization is 12 years old, but this program is less than 2 years old. So we're figuring out a lot of things as we go. And so figuring out how to do that, I'm married, all of our kids are grown and flown, so I have a new amount of freedom there, but I also have grandchildren. So when I think about domains, I think of it, I tried to come up with something that would be memorable, and this is something that I've thought of for a few years actually, because how do you really balance priorities? And so I come up with 7 things, and it's faith, for me that's first. My family is second, and of course these all intermix, right? Finances, which is really your employment or your work and what brings income so you can pay your bills. Fitness, friendships, and then to keep with the the same alliterative thing. I said, forever learning. I love to read. I love to listen to webinars. I love to learn. And then fun. Something fun that feeds our emotional stuff. So for me, after, I don't know, whatever time, I'm 60. So I just joined the symphony chorus. And so I didn't have time in my previous life to do that kind of thing, but now it's like carving out 3 hours every Monday night to sing. So that's kind of a balance thing. So I'm done for now.
Hi, my name is Yolanda Madas, and I am the mother of 2 kids, 5 and 8. I have a full-time job. I'm married. And when Sandra had suggested the topic of balance before, I was thought, why in the world would you want to ask me? I always feel like I'm juggling all those things but not doing a great job at any of them at the same time. So I've been thinking about this hard and long, and I recognize that life has phases, and that at this phase in my life that I'm living, I'm always going to be busy. Right? There's soccer, and there's projects, and there's aging parents, and there's grandparents, and there's just all these things that take up your day and your time, and you're constantly struggling to be Wonder Woman. I don't know, for those of you who were here at the first Inspire meetings, when they talk about how each one of us is a masterpiece, I so needed to hear that day, because I realized we as women are our strongest critics and our strongest push downers, where we try so hard to be fit and a good mom and advance in our careers and a good wife and a good friend. And so we do all these things, and it seems like at the end of the day, we're just not good to ourselves. And when we don't take care of ourselves, that breaks my heart. When my body's telling me you're tired, when I start getting anxious or stress, is that scream of my body saying, you're not right. I mean, you might keep pushing through, but I'm gonna break at one point. So the first thing I learned that, following with the guidance is, I first need to take care of myself to be able to take care of everything else.
Good.
And
Okay, Yobi, we're going to come
yes,
back.
move over. We'll continue.
Yes,
Thank
that
you.
will be a continue. Let's go ahead and hear other panels.
Hi guys, my name is Carla Davies, and I just want to thank, there's a lot of Grimbleby Coleman in the house today, and a lot of Carla friends, so thank you for coming and supporting us. So I work at Grimbleby Coleman, I'm the marketing manager, and the domains, I guess that I'm a mom to a little beautiful 4-year-old, I'm a wife to an amazing husband, I work, full-time, I'm on 3 nonprofit boards, hopefully 4 soon. I do salsa, I like going to the beach, long walks, romantic walks under sunsets. So I think when I was asked, to be on the panel, I'm the worst person to be up here. Because people always say that you're always doing so much, like how are you doing it? And so I really thought about it, and I thought, you have to be passionate about whatever it is you're doing. And that really speaks to who I am as a person and my heart. Like, I'm passionate at work. I love making people happy and making them feel good. I'm passionate about my daughter and being with her. And one of the first Inspire lunches was about this that I came to last year, and you're on the panel. And what I learned there, and I'll hand it over because I know we're going long, but was wherever you are, be there. So I think that was such a good learning for me. Like, okay, I'm being a friend, so be a friend at that time. And I think, we do juggle, and if I think about like everything I have to do today, then I really become overwhelmed. So I just think I'm at work, so I have to be at work, and I'm at break, so then I get to walk with my friends, or, so it's just sort of like be passionate at every intentional moment wherever you are, and whatever role you have to be.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Kleinschmidt. I'm an administrative assistant at Grimbleby Coleman. Again. We're everywhere. I am a single mom to a 7-year-old boy. I work full-time. I go to school full-time. I'm on the Inspire team, and I always try and make time for my friends, for my family, for my animals, because they need food. But yeah, it is a juggle for some things, but I love everything I do, and I try and carve out time for everything that really means something to me, and I know that we're probably still running long, so I'll cut it back. One more for
My name is Cheryl Casey, and I'll keep my domains real short so I can talk more later, okay?
Yeah.
I almost called Sandy and told her I can't be on your board today because I'm so glad to hear you say the same thing. It's like balance. It's like, well, I'm an expert at what it isn't. So it was really great though, and I encourage you to think about your domains today and as you leave, and like listing everything that's important in your life and fitting it in a category. I came up with relationships. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 grown children, friendships. I feel like our home, if we have a home to take care of, is a huge domain where I feel desperately. I work full-time as a community outreach coordinator for the cancer program at Memorial Medical Center, and as that role has grown over the years, it's more and more demanding than ever, and as well, more and more rewarding. As far as community, volunteerism is really important to me. I started volunteering after my father passed away of cancer in 1997, and I've been a volunteer for the Cancer Society for all those years. More recently, joined the board for the chemo crew, and have commitments to church, women's Bible study, and to Inspire. And then, of course, self. You know, we talked about the domain of self, spiritual, physical, and mental.
Great, I think great. So I knew everyone would say, oh, why did you invite me? I'm gonna balance, blah, blah. So we're gonna start with what works, what's working. And you touched on it, Yoli and Carla, you touched on it. So how do you know things are in balance? Let's talk about what we're doing well. Let's congratulate ourselves. Let's celebrate together. So we're gonna mix it up a little bit. Who wants to go first? I won't make anybody. I'll go.
I'll be the leader.
Good.
I think that, yeah, I think as long as I'm doing something with passion, I feel really good about it. And so that feeling good, I don't get tired, like I have this like extra resource of energy that I wouldn't think I would have. Because again, if I listed everything out, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do I do it? But like I feel good, I'm taking care of myself. I do want to piggyback on what Yoli had to say about taking care. Like I think as women, we tend to take care of others first and foremost, and I think it's just like that's what society tells us to do. So I think it's really important for myself. I've decided like, I need to take care of me, and so when I had my daughter, I thought I can't be on any more community boards. I need to be a mom, and then I can't hang out with my friends because I need to be a mom, and I wasn't very happy about that. And so finally, I'm like, that's not what makes me happy. Like, I mean, I want to be happy. I need to be happy for my daughter and for my husband. And so serving my community makes me happy. So I started getting back into things that made me happy like that. And so I think I know that balanced, but if I'm just in a good place, like mentally and spiritually, and I'm doing what I love to do, then it doesn't feel like work.
Great.
So to build up on what Carla just said, I think when we're so busy, sometimes we lose track of what we're passionate about. So to me, to find what we're passionate about, to revitalize the passion that I have for my kids, for my family, for my work, that doesn't happen if I don't have meaningful connections. Carla was talking about the importance of friendships and being out there. And I think those meaningful connections with what we do, with our friends, with our family, with our support network, are so important. It's because it reminds us of our identity, of who we are. We're not the task that we're doing. We are ourselves, and we bring something to the table. And I think when we lose sight of that is when we can lose that passion. And that's why we need each other. That's why we need your friends to come and tell you what you don't tell yourself. You're great. I don't know how you do it all, even though you feel like a mess.
I read a book recently called Essentialism, and he identifies the fact that we have to live with our priorities in our minds. And I think that's what we're all saying, is when we're aware of what our purpose is at that moment, we can be present. And I heard Father Boyle speak one time, and he said he has on his bulletin board, now, here, meaning physically here, this. And to just be in that moment. But in order to know that that's where you need to be, you have to spend some time on your own, figuring out, what do I want my life to mean? And what is my purpose? And boil it down to some key priorities. And they shift and change over time. I mean, our roles shift and change over time, but our purpose and who we are doesn't. But we're gonna have seasons in our life when we can do more things than we can when we've got young children underfoot. It's just true. And I think we're the generation, and some of you are in the next generation, but are figuring out the fact that how women interact in our current Western culture, because my mom's generation didn't work outside the home. And so their interactions with friends were completely different. They were not based or connected with work at all. And so we're still figuring out how to be who we are in each moment. I'm not sure that made sense, but it's, so I think this author recommends a 90-day review, and just by yourself, like take a half a day if you can, and just say, am I doing? And am I being? I love that perspective. Who I want to be in this season, and what are he says, your top 3 focuses. What are my top 3 things that I need to give my energies to right now? And it could be, I need to overemphasize my community involvement at this season, or I need to overemphasize, I need to be with an aging parent, or a newborn, or whatever it is. But I think it's a lie that you can do all things all the time well. You cannot. So balance is an ever, modified experience.
I think the biggest thing I took away from having the time to think about this, thank you, Sandy, and I come back to this a lot when I talk, is just making sure you have time to be quiet. I think in a busy life, that's it's the hardest thing. Like you said, we put ourselves last, and where is that time? But it's the most important time, because it's the time where you can hear God speak to your heart, and you can have your own thoughts, and see more clearly where you need to be putting your priorities. And I love to hear you talk about your passion, and I love everything you've all said. But the other thing is, I think just, don't miss your life. Don't wish something would pass quickly so it can be over because it feels stressful. Because sometimes the biggest I'm gonna cry, sorry. I'm sorry. But I mean, the biggest blessings sometimes are the hardest times of our lives. They truly are. And when you have little kids and you're the carpool mom, it feels like you get off work and you drive. And you drive till you drop. And you have no time for yourself. But there's so many blessings in the relationships and the children. And I have one little girl named Rachel that I just wanted to share with you, because some of you might be those young moms driving those kids and thinking it's never going to end. But Rachel was our carpool buddy, and driving her all those years in high school, picking them up from school, taking them to dance 5 days a week, and everything else that the girls did. That little girl in the back of my car lost her phone. And because of that time we had to spend together, she's always going to feel like a daughter in my heart. I can't possibly take her mom's place. But I know God put her in the backseat of my carpool. I know she did. And just don't wish your life away to make things hurry past. Don't miss your life.
So the question was, how do you keep it, or how do you
recognize when things are doing well.
Just want to make sure. Okay. So I'm a very visual person. So, thank you, sorry. I was just going to yell. I'm a very visual person. So when I think of my balance and all that, I do think of juggling, but I think of taking my time and passing things by and things being in the air, yes, but always having time to grab it and pass it on and get to the next thing. And I know that I'm in balance because sometimes I can say, oh, I don't have time for this one, or I'm going to put something else in, so I'm going to put this up for a minute and then grab this and then just keep going, and everything's fine and nothing drops, and sometimes things do drop and you have to figure it out. You can let one drop and keep going, or you can stop and then everything falls down. You go, oh no. But I find that it's really important to ask for help and to have your family and your friends available for you, so you can say, I can't do this, can you help me? Or I don't have time, can you help me? Can you get my kid? Can you watch him for a day because I have class? You know, and it just always helps to have that feeling like someone's there guiding you and helping you along to keep things moving and in the air and balanced. But it doesn't always happen. And I will be the first to say that I forget things, or I drop things, or maybe my son didn't brush his teeth before school. Uh-oh, it's too late now.
So that kind of, you shared so much about balance, that you know that you're a visual person, that you have the balance of developing a support system of people that you can call on when you need to. There's, so there's, even though it might not like register as, oh, this is, a skill that enables my life to be balanced, you guys have all said a lot. So now we're going to kind of go towards what are your barriers to balance. And I'm going to limit you to 2 because it's really easy to sort of get a little bit negative about that. So 2 of your major barriers to balance. And wrap it up with, because we just have time to go back through the panel once. If with your best friend or your daughter or your granddaughter, what would you like them to know about balance? What would be something you would pass on to someone that you love dearly?
So a couple of the barriers to me is mindfulness, because you are such on the go, 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 that if I were injured, if I were to fall and scratch my knee, I would know that I need to take care of it. But if I am getting to a point where I'm constantly stressed, or I'm getting sad, or I'm feeling disconnected, sometimes it's hard for me to identify it until it's getting really bad. So mindfulness to me is one of the biggest barriers to achieving balance. The way I've been able to lately have that quiet time is running. For some reason that helps me. I'm not one to meditate. I pray when I'm driving, so it's not like a time where I'm just silent. That's that. And just being having really high expectation of I can do it all. Like I just had to know that I have to give myself grace. As far as what would I want my daughter to know about balance in life? Balance is a moving target. Balance, yes, is a keyword to the universe, but it's a moving target. It's always changing, and you have to be flexible. It has really nothing to do with your schedule or the time you have, but a lot, it has everything to do with how you're connected with the people around you and what you're doing.
I would say I'm my own barrier to balance, right? Because almost everything we do, we are processing in our head. So we're either telling ourselves something negative, but if we give ourselves time, like has been suggested too, and being mindful, being aware of where is this coming from? Why am I saying I will do something when I really don't have time to do that? So one trick I learned from someone, there's Nothing's original with me. It's all something I've learned from others. Is how not to overcommit is the trick in your head to say, can I get back to you on that? Because one of the things that we women do is we are people pleasers typically, and we say yes before we've processed it. Because we like that feeling of, yeah, we want to help, right? So give yourself an out, but you have to get back to them. But then you can decide, okay, why am I interested in doing this? Is this something that fills a priority for me right now? Is this something in my gift set, or am I doing this out of social obligation or guilt? Something, bad. So giving yourself that moment saves a lot of heartache.
What would you say to your loved one?
Oh, that's what I would say. Give yourself time. Give yourself time. And I really am someone who, I believe we are placed in our locations and in our communities and in our families by God's design. And so we are strategically there for a purpose. And so being aware of that, and being aware that we have a unique role and unique gifts, unique talents, I would just encourage that person to understand that, know what her gifts are, come to things like this and be fed and be encouraged, and use those. And of course, there's tons of resources online for learning how you're wired, and that's of course part of our work too. So,
I'd say one of my biggest enemies as far as balance is also myself, that I want to do too much. I want to do everything for everyone all the time, and sometimes it's really hard to say, no, I don't have time. It's happens at work, and then telling myself no sometimes, saying, no, you don't have time to do that. Wanting to go wine tasting on the weekend, but I'd have to ditch class 2 hours early, and I can't do that. So telling myself no sometimes, because I want to do everything all the time, and I can't. And it's fair to tell yourself, you can't do that today. But I'd say something that I tell one of my best friends or my son is, it's okay to say no. No one's gonna hate you, no one's gonna be mad at you. If someone told you no, would you be upset? No, then it's okay. You don't have to hold yourself to such a high standard that you can't ever make a mistake. Because mistakes are gonna happen, and you just have to stop, reassess, pick it all back up, and keep on walking and keep on going.
Good, that's great. Got about 4 minutes. Okay.
On that theme, there's a book, The Best Yes. Have any of you read that? It's so amazing and easy to read. And when you get to the end, you go, oh, I need to start at the beginning and start all over. So that's a good one to kind of help that overcommitting spirit that we seem to have. I'm totally an overachiever, always have been, and have a hard time saying no as well. But back to the balance and what I would want my daughter to know. I love what you said about each of us is different. None of us is going to be the same. Nothing's going to look the same. We need to give grace and that freedom to each of us to find our own way. And I love watching my daughter find her way. It's really a blessing. It really is. But what I have learned is the seasons, and it is great to have had a little time on this side of things to look back and see how those seasons do change and how we do shift. And just know that there's something wonderful in all of them.
All right, so I have 3 minutes. I was kidding. So I think barriers, number one is setting unrealistic expectations. I feel like you said it, everyone said it. It's like you want to say yes, you want to help everybody, I want to be on everything, I want to be everything for everybody. And so I think now that I've turned 40 this year, I'm like, I can't do that. I am so wise. I have to do what's right for me and for my family, first and foremost, and being kind to myself, because I think when I feel like I'm letting people down, then I am my own worst enemy, because then I'm like, oh, they're not gonna like me, or they're gonna think I don't like them, and I start creating like this, all these like stories that like no one is actually saying that. I mean, I could tell we were supposed to we were gonna meet up to practice and what we're gonna talk about. And so I had a meeting, and so I thought, okay, I'm gonna go there, and I'm gonna come back and meet with Caitlin, and then I'm gonna go to a different meeting. And I was playing it out like how it was my route, and I finally was like, why am I doing that? And so I was kind to myself, and I asked Caitlin, hey, I'm not gonna make it. And luckily, she's a good friend to say, okay, maybe we can do it tomorrow at lunch. And I want to be surrounded with friends that I can say that, and that it's not like, well, why? Or how come? Or I've had those friends that are like, guilt you into things. And I do feel like I kind of do that at work with a lot of people. I'm like, why don't you want to come? But I do want them to, right? They're like, yeah. So I'm that person. But I'm just trying to get them to maybe be exposed to fun things. Anyways, so the high expectation, and self-love. I think I have to love myself first, and that's okay. And I think for a long time I didn't feel that way about who I was, and wanting to be like, oh, I need to be this for this person and this for this person, and I'm like, I have to be Carla. I mean, that's the bottom line. My boss is here, and I was telling my friends, I'm like, she said she wouldn't come if it would make me feel uncomfortable. And I'm like, this is who I am. I'm not going to pretend to be somebody that I'm not. I'm not going to be like, I have it all under control, Jane. So the advice that I would give my best friend is just to surround yourself with loving friends and a support system. Be around people that you can be honest and vulnerable with, and that they love you and understand when you say no, that it's not about them. It's really that's what you need.
Give him a round of We've talked all afternoon about this, but we want to give you guys now time at your tables. Everybody here, go back to your tables, and I want you to think about those questions. When do you know you're in balance? What do you think are your main barriers for finding what you need in balance? And what do you want to pass on to someone that you love very much? How would you like to encourage another woman or your children or another man, your husband, whomever? What would you want to say about balance to them? All right, so those are the questions. I want to just add one thing based on what Carla said, how she has to be herself. One of the keys from me was realizing that if I am not myself, the world is really robbed of who God wanted me to be. I'm the only person that can do and be and influence and, be about my sphere of influence the way that God created me to be. So pretending to be somebody else is futile because I can't be. And the world really is being cheated if I'm not my authentic self being me.
Thank you so much, Sandra.